It's mailbag time. Here we go. It is Friday, July 18th. Welcome to the show, Fantasy Football Today. We have your questions via Draftathon. We have sold out 10 questions per week, $50 per question. That's $500 that we raised for St. Jude, and we'll be reading those questions. Your emails at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com, your Apple Podcast questions, and your YouTube comments today. Hello, Dan Schneier. Happy Friday, sir.
Happy Friday. I will say this, Adam. Good news for you. My last 3 tennis matches have been rained out somehow out here in New Jersey. So I have somehow not played a lot this summer, and our match is coming up. But bad news for you. I'm playing tonight. I canceled things. I moved things around. I said, I got to get a match in. And let me say this. I just went on a flight. I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. I just went on a long flight, 5 hours to Vegas both ways. When it comes to flying, is there anything that's more anxiety ridden and anything that really drives your anxiety higher than that feeling of being on the plane? You're there first, you're in your seat. I had a window seat for the flight home. I was hoping to sleep. And then the person who's in the middle seat sits down next to you, and it's just that constant jockeying for position for like the next 5 hours. Like, you want to get a little of the armrest. They're taking up all the armrest. Now your elbows jammed in and you're like tight for the rest of the flight.
Just give it to them. Just give it to them.
Just give it to them. I don't want to just give it to them. It should be shared equally. And then when they impinge on your space, like the seats are set up, you need to keep your feet and your legs within your range of the seat. When they start to impinge on your range of the seat, that's when it gets to a breaking point for me. It never gets to the breaking point. I just passive aggressively do things that hopefully signal to them, like, be aware of your surroundings and understand that you have your allotted space, and that's what you're supposed to use. And I am using my allotted space well, but it's just like constantly in my head. I can't get it out. Every time I'm flying, I'm thinking about that jockeying for position on the armrest and within the seat. It's just, they got to figure something out with these planes, man. Create some space.
I know. I say 2 armrests per seat. One
Why
for
not?
each customer. I think the leg thing is ridiculous. It should be pretty clear, like where the leg room ends. But
the problem why it's not is because
we got to move on.
Yeah,
we got to move on here. Come on now.
We got to move past it.
Listen, our tennis.
Before the show, Dan, I got to hurry up. I got to get to something at 11 o'clock.
I have 11 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, we should change it to noon. Our tennis match, by the way, is going to be live streamed, but in a much more professional way than it was last year. We're not just going to put it on Twitter with Dan's phone. We're going to have a camera there. We're going to have probably 1 or 2 video people there. We're going to have, I think, hopefully Dave, Jamie, and Heath commenting. It's going to be like commentating, and we can take donations live. So we're doing it real this time. Dan's playing tonight. I've got 2 playoff matches next week. I'm fired up. I'm feeling good. All right, let's get to the show. So we've got the Rashee Rice and the Jordan Addison news, and we do have an email that I wanted to read before that, but I just want to remind people about a couple of early season suspensions. So Julian Edelman was suspended for the first 4 games of 2018. His ADP, he had missed all of 2017, by the way, with a torn ACL. So there were other reasons to doubt him. So he's suspended 4 games. His ADP was wide receiver 30. 72nd overall. Edelman finished as wide receiver 22, even with missing those 4 games, and wide receiver 13 per game. So if you were able to make it through those first 4 games, you had a total steal. Alvin Kamara was suspended for 3 games for the beginning of the 2023 season. He was RB21 in ADP, 62nd overall. He finished as RB12, even with the suspension, and Kamara was RB5 per game. So sometimes there can be a market overreaction to these things, and maybe you can take advantage of it. We don't know what the suspensions are. We don't know if there will be suspensions. We suspect there will be, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Here's our email of the day at fantasyfootball@CBSI, the letter I, fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. It comes from Keaton. I've been listening to your show for about 7 years. I've gone through lots of stages of life in that time, but none bigger than officially becoming a father on July 1st to my daughter, Elizabeth. She came at 35 weeks and has spent the first 17 days in the St. Francis NICU getting stronger. And today is the day, and he wrote this, I think yesterday. Today is the day I officially get to bring my little girl home. It was a scary and challenging time. Nothing prepares you to see your child have to fight like that. Listening to your show is always one of the highlights of my days, and even on that notorious hospital delivery room couch, I was still able to find comfort getting to listen to the FFT crew. It's not just about content with you guys, it's a community, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And I want to send our best wishes to Keaton and Elizabeth. Congratulations. I told him to get some sleep because he's going to need it. But that was an amazing email to read. And I'm
Guess what?
What?
Keaton's in the leftover league.
Yeah.
Look at that. And
Go
he's
in.
donating to St. Jude. He said he's going to donate to St.
This
Jude.
guy's the best.
Yeah.
But I do stand with that sentiment. I've been on a fantasy podcast before this, and it was fun. It was interesting. We talked a lot of advanced stats, but there's something different about this podcast because it's not just about the content. And I do appreciate the community as well. And I've seen all you guys throughout your support with St. Jude. So thank you for that as well.
Awesome. Good stuff. Keaton, congratulations. All right. News and notes. So Jordan Addison pleaded no contest to a reckless driving with the involvement of alcohol charge, and that resolves his DUI citation. So it's a lesser charge that he pleaded to. He could still be, the way I interpreted what I read in the ESPN article is that he's facing a 3-game suspension. That's just the way I interpreted it for Jordan Addison. Rashee Rice was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 5 years probation. So he was involved in a multi-car crash in 2024. He can serve the jail time at any time during his 5-year probation. So it's not, almost certainly not going to be during the football season. But I mean, we'll do bonus podcasts when we hear about, the news. But Jamie, let's say it's 3-game suspensions for both of them. How much would that change the draft board?
So I adjusted my rankings yesterday for, I hadn't done it for Judkins yet. And I adjusted it for both of these guys because I've done a handful of drafts already, since this past week. And, you're just kind of seeing where these guys are sort of falling, or I think where the anticipation, at least for Rice and Addison, are going to fall. So I dropped Rice behind Worthy, just a couple spots. So he was wide receiver 13 for me, and I dropped him to like wide receiver 26. Just moved everybody up accordingly. And then Addison was wide receiver 34, 35, 34, 35, and I dropped him to like wide receiver 39. So, just sort of adjusting, and the round difference is pretty, drastic for those. So like Rice dropped 2 rounds. He was a round 3 pick for me. Now he's round 5, and Addison dropped like to round 8, maybe. You think it was round 6. So just being a little bit concerned, I do think that once the suspension is announced, that will sort of, we'll figure it out. But anybody doing these early drafts, you have to sort of adjust for it.
I don't feel like we've adjusted enough. Like doing these early drafts, we've already been seeing Addison go in a range where I feel like drafters have adjusted for this incoming expected suspension. On the Rice front, he's just been shooting up draft boards over the last 2-3 weeks we've been drafting, both on our site and then even in the Scott Fishbowl, I saw him go way up top. So I think this will actually change a lot for him. I think we'll start to see him fall round 2, maybe even 3 rounds from where he's going, because he's been hyped and steamed up a lot on draft boards early.
I don't think we should, though. I think
really.
Well, based on what I just read with Edelman and Kamara, it's tough to navigate through a 3-game suspension. Again, I'm just throwing that out there, hypothetical. It's probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of that, I would guess, but it's tough to navigate through it. If you're in a shallower league and you really like these guys, then I think it's easier to draft them.
Yeah,
you're right. It's easier to fill in that spot for those 3 weeks. But remember, if it's the first 3 games of the season or first 4 games of the season, there are no bye weeks there. So you're not going to have to deal with a suspension and a bye. I know I might forget to say this, but I'm just saying, like on your roster, you're not going to have anybody on a bye. You're going to be able to use all of your bench, all of your roster to fill in that spot unless there's an injury. Don't allow anyone to put these guys in an IR spot. Just that should go without saying. But in case we get that question, they should not be IR eligible. I just think that if, getting through the first 3 weeks of the season, if it is a 3-game suspension, if you go 1-2 and you get Rashee Rice in the 5th round, and
that's not where he's been really drafted. That was
he just went in the 3rd round,
right?
Oh, you shouldn't take him in the 3rd round. But even if you get him in the 4th round, I think, you start talking about him being like DK Metcalf in a full PPR league or something like that. I don't really know what to expect from Rashee Rice. I think he was a complicated player to begin with. That makes this difficult, right?
Well, you have the injury that he's coming off of. I think the thing that you got to take into account is like, we had some questions about both these guys prior to this situation. Rice, was he going to get back to being that guy we saw in the first 2 games of the season and the end of his rookie season after what Xavier Worthy just did, without really seeing what he looks like with Marquise Brown and still Travis Kelce being there? Addison's getting an entirely different quarterback, plus a healthy TJ Hawkinson for a full season. So there was questions. And so I think if you are in the Rice and Addison camps and wanted to draft these guys prior to this situation, knowing that this could still have potentially happened, then you're probably going to love this scenario from an average draft position standpoint, fantasy standpoint. Obviously not going to love the situation, but you get what I'm saying. The fantasy implications of this. So like I drafted Rice in the fishbowl. It was round 4 because of where he fell in terms of the receivers. Clearly I would not have done that now, but
Right.
I'm still expecting him to perform at a level that where I was drafting him in the 3rd round and redraft and ranking him there, because I still think there's immense upside. And in the case of Addison, look, you kind of had to understand, like, we don't know how this was all going to work out because of McCarthy. But if you were buying into Kevin O'Connell and what Sam Darnold did last year, then you should still be very excited about Jordan Addison. So you're going to get probably still very good situations at discounted prices. Now, again, if it's more than 3 games, like this could be 6 games. Like we don't know. We don't know how the NFL is going to approach this. Really, they haven't had like these type of unless I'm missing something, but they haven't had these type of disciplinary situations in a while. And is it, we're going to make examples of the driving situations, the DUI situations, and drop the hammer a little bit. Wouldn't shock me at all either way. So plus you have the NFLPA and all the stuff going on there. Like who knows how this is going to play out from who's defending these guys.
True.
Yeah. All right. So I guess it's kind of easier with Addison. If let's say you're in a 2 receiver, 2 running back flex league, you could, in theory, draft Jordan Addison in a way that you don't even need him for the first 3
Right.
weeks.
Yes.
Right.
So if he's being drafted right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's probably in that flex discussion. So you don't really need to drop him that much. I mean, you could, or you could just take advantage of him falling, right? Like,
yeah.
And be fine. Rice is trickier, obviously, because he's a 3rd round pick for a lot of people. I mean,
I think the other part of this, Adam, the trickier part is Worthy.
Well, right. And someone said Kelsey too, because Kelsey, as I mentioned, wasn't 12 targets in 3 games with Rice. And yeah, actually there's so much to talk about there. Someone also brought up a point with Rice that does give him a little bit more time to rehab. So
he also misses practice time though, so that's not a great thing.
That's a good point.
True.
So like Travis Kelsey, the first 3 games of the season, he had 12 targets. The last 14 games of the season after the Rice injury, he was on pace for 158 targets. So that goes from 4 targets a game to about 9.
That few fantasy points with a 150 target pace. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, he couldn't even get to 1,000 yards. He wasn't even on pace for 1,000 yards with 158 targets. Worthy, Jamie, is really interesting because first 9 games of the season, Xavier Worthy, 15% target share, on pace for 38 catches. He had an 11.7 yard ADOT, which is kind of medium. The last 7 games of the season, excluding week 8, this is when he started picking it up a little bit. Week 18, sorry, excluding week 18, he played 1 snap. He had a 21% target share. His ADOT went way down, 7.3 yards. He sort of became Rashee Rice. No, well, I'm just
use him in that role.
He filled in this short area target role, which is not what we expected from Worthy. Yep. Did you know that he had of all the wide receivers, I think there were 85 or 86. All the wide receivers with 50 or more targets, Xavier Worthy had the 4th lowest explosive play rate in football last year. So Jamie, what's the impact of this on Kelsey, Mahomes, and Worthy?
And Marquise Brown. Let's not forget about him.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're all going to get bumps to whatever extent, you're looking at it in ADP drafts, ADP and rankings, so just by the nature of the uncertainty until we know how many games these guys are going to be out. I think the thing with Worthy is you don't want to overvalue him because Rice is not missing the season, so if you're looking at it, and this is where I struggled with, do I want to really draft Xavier Worthy ahead of Rashee Rice? Because if Rice comes back and has that role and is going to be the target leader that I think a lot of people were hoping for, then it's going to make it a little bit tough to trust Worthy based on what we saw in the beginning part of the season. However, rookie year in this offense, which we know is very complicated to pick up, does he come back? And I mean, you heard me say this at times last year, like, is this their new Tyreek Hill because of how fast he is and the things they could do with him in the backfield and just all of the explosiveness of just putting the ball in his hands and making him this elite level playmaker, which we saw toward the end of the season. And we certainly saw it in the Super Bowl, obviously with some mitigating circumstances with, the big play at the end when he's going against backups, but whatever the case may be, clearly this guy's an explosive player. So does he have a chance now to maybe be that guy, be the lead receiver for the Chiefs? And then here's Marquise Brown, who, has never, I think, really lived up to what he could be as a fantasy asset because he's been on some of these, limited passing offenses. Baltimore was never going to feature him to the level maybe that he should have. Arizona, same thing. And so now he gets this opportunity for maybe a 3 to 5 game stretch, depending on how long the suspension is, to sort of, flourish with, one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league, and a unique playmaker in Andy Reid. So I think he's an obvious late round pick. If you get 3 games of him starting, like you said, Adam, there's no buys. Depending on your injury situation, you probably don't need to play him. But I mean, if this guy comes out in game 1, has 8 targets, 5 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown, by week 2, he's going to be in a lot of people's lineups. He's probably leading the waiver wire column, So there's just a big opportunity here for a late round pick. And again, the longer the suspension, the higher he'll get drafted. So that's just kind of, I think you got to keep an eye on it. For Kelce, I'm not changing my opinion on him at all. We know 36 in October. There are all these guys still there. As we talked about yesterday with tight end tiers, he's sort of in that middle. He's in that third tier for me. He's in that middle group of Laporta, Njoku, Hawkinson. If you want to put Ingram or Andrews up there, the rookies up there, we're splitting hairs how far, you want to either drop him or raise the other guys. I just think you're looking at that round 6 through 8 range. If Kelce's still on the board and you like him better than the other positions, you take a chance on him. Still third in targets and receptions last year at the position. 3 touchdowns, which I think that he should benefit the most from this year with everybody being there, because he'll have a few more red zone opportunities and hopefully cash in on them. So if we can get back to 8+ touchdowns and you're still getting 80 catches and 800 yards, that's a pretty good bargain for somebody you're getting that late.
That would be great. All right. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get through all of it, I think, because we really got to read these emails, especially for the people who paid for St. Jude. But we will talk about the Vikings situation. Did you mention anything on no change for Mahomes?
No. Still the 6th quarterback for me.
I mean, I think it could be somewhat of a blessing because the problem for Mahomes is the ADOT. He's just too conservative. It needs to throw the ball downfield. Get the downfield passing game going for 3 games or whatever. And then mix in Rashee Rice and what he does really well. But that they want to be more explosive.
Doesn't matter how much they want to be more explosive. Defense just going to play them top down like they've played them. Like there's no way for it. And also Mahomes was genuinely bad from a ball placement standpoint last year on 20+ yard throws.
Yeah, well,
I think part of that though is protection, and 2 offensive lineman additions this offseason should definitely help, especially if the rookie's healthy.
I need to get a break in, Jamie. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Just finish your thought.
No, and then clearly, look, if he has all these guys at his disposal, which he's not going to now, but he has, for the majority of the season, that's a huge difference maker. Like you said, Dan, last year he didn't look good. Well, look who he was throwing to also.
Yeah, that's part of the issue. He just genuinely, going over the tape with Jacob, it just wasn't the same Mahomes.
No, it was not. A lot of inaccurate passes, surprising. 7.1 yards per attempt. 2 years in a row he's been around that. It's weird. All right, we'll be right back. We'll talk about the Vikings on Fantasy Football today.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
It was actually 6.8 yards per attempt for Mahomes last year, not 7.1. He should be above 8 yards per attempt. That's the Mahomes we know and love. But in order to do that, he's going to have to throw the ball downfield. Now, the Vikings have a crowded receiving core, and I thought about, TJ Hawkinson, obviously, and the impact of a potential Jordan Addison suspension. Did anything change for you in your rankings when it comes to the Vikings guys, Jamie, other than Addison moving down?
Not for Jefferson or Hawkinson. Jefferson's still the 3rd receiver behind Chase and Lamb, and still a top 5 overall pick. And Hawkinson's still tight end 7 for me. 7. I again, until we know the length of the suspension, if it's more than 3 games, then maybe Hawkinson moves up a spot and Jefferson can leapfrog Lamb, although I doubt it. But really, it's just a matter of, and I think you said it best, Addison's the perfect bench receiver if you don't need him, because when he comes back, there's lottery ticket upside if Jefferson ever misses any time. There's huge touchdown potential, as we've seen for him in this offense. And as long as McCarthy can, again, I always feel like I have to take a breath when I say this. As long as McCarthy can play at Sam Darnold's level, there's enough upside here for everybody in this offense to be successful to whatever degree you're looking at them. Jefferson as a high-end guy, Hawkinson as a mid-tier number 1 tight end, and Addison as a borderline 2-3 wide receiver.
Okay, and the ironic part of having to move Hawkinson up if there's a long suspension, he'd have to jump Travis Kelce, who's also potentially benefiting from Rashee Rice.
Right. If you're a McCarthy truther, then you're going to love the situation for Hawkinson.
All right. Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams retired, and this could be a boost for Trey Harris, Daniel Popper of The Athletic, who I think is very good and gives a lot of fantasy relevant stuff. He's often, I feel like, very critical of Quentin Johnston, which I think is justifiable. But he thinks that Trey Harris would be the guy who would start at the X receiver position. Trey Harris, of course, needs to sign his contract.
He did yesterday.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, so that's great news. And this is. Would you draft Trey Harris or Marquise Brown?
Trey Harris. Trey Harris is the best kept secret right now in fantasy. Like, you can still get him in your last round or your second to last round or third to last round. And it's like, I'm probably going to be getting a 90% snap player in a Justin Herbert offense. Now that defenses are shifting focus to Ladd McConkey, he's going to get one-on-ones all day. It's pretty good. I don't know many other situations. Like, this is the situation Addison had last year that Addison thrived in.
Anthony Richardson appears to be 100% healthy.
Not as pass happy. I want to make that clear. Not as pass happy offense gone.
We'll keep an eye on Anthony Richardson, but his shoulder appears to be fine. The Steelers signed TJ Watt to a 3-year, $123 million extension. Jack Besh signed his contract, rookie receiver for the Raiders. Here's a sneaky news item here. Oh, I ran out of time to see how to pronounce this guy's name, so I'm sorry. Oh, I think I might have pronunciation guide available. But Detroit defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike is on the PUP list, and he will miss at least 4 games. He's recently been placed on the PUP list. If you start camp on the PUP list, you can come off anytime. But he's on the PUP list now. He's going to miss at least the first 4 games. Meanwhile, Aleem McNeil, a star defensive tackle, is also on the PUP list. He can come off at any time, but he's recovering from, I think, a torn ACL. But Onwuzurike, the Lions allowed 3.7 yards per carry to running backs with him on the field and 5 yards per carry to running backs with him off the field.
When was he injured?
Carries. What's that?
When was he injured?
This year or last year?
Last year.
He played most of last year.
I just wonder, like, with that number, because Anzalone was hurt, Hutchinson was hurt. Like,
McNeil,
how much of that was
McNeil coming back will remedy that immediately.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that number, if it was just him missing.
But the numbers with McNeil on and off the field compared to Onwuzurike on and off the field.
Got those. Let's go.
It was like
I mean, look,
carry difference. This was a
one. I don't want to dismiss what you said, but there was just so many guys missing. Like, I wonder how much of it was, him and 7 of his teammates weren't there.
So he played a lot of snaps. So Onwuzurike is going to be out. McNeil's coming off a torn ACL, I believe it was. You got Green Bay in week 1. You got Chicago in week 2. I'm just saying this may not be that tough of a run defense. Not that you were going to sit Josh Jacobs, but it has been in the past. So we'll keep an eye on that. Could be good for Swift in week 2 or something like that. Okay. Yep. And Justin Herbert is wearing UV contact lenses that will help him see the field better and apparently gives him red eyes, which is really cool.
Just a couple things real quick. I know we got to get to the questions. RJ Harvey signed his rookie deal too, so don't worry about that. So 2 huge second-round picks from a rookie perspective. To go back to Trey Harris, first off, I don't think we should dismiss Quentin Johnston also benefiting from this, because the way that he finished last season, he had 45 targets in his last 5 games and 15.5 PPR points in at least 3 of those. So there was at least a developing connection. I think the week 18 game was huge for him, but there was a developing connection and maybe a maturity process that was starting to work for him entering year 3. And now Mike Williams not being there, that just alleviates somebody standing in his way, a guy that Justin Herbert had a relationship with. And to piggyback on what you said about Trey Harris, there's just like a handful of rookies that when you get to the later rounds of your draft, Harris is one, Jaden Higgins is one, Jack Besh you mentioned is one, and Kyle Williams is another. Like, there's such huge opportunities for these guys, whether they take advantage of them or not, we'll find out. But there's such huge opportunities for these guys. And again, look at the passing offenses is going to, sort of determine, I think, how you like these guys. To Dan's point, the Vikings offense last year, a little bit different by comparison to the Chargers, but the Texan situation could be great for Higgins. The new regime and quarterback for the Raiders could be great for Besh. Drake May and Kyle Williams, he may be the best guy there for all we know. So these are awesome late round picks, and somebody mentioned Egbuka. Forget about Egbuka and Burton. They're on a different level. These are guys that were not highly thought after rookies, at least prospects coming into this process to the same level as those two guys, at least. Just great late round flyers.
So even just to add to your point, Jamie, like those two guys too aren't going that high yet either, Burden and Egbuka.
True. Yeah, fair point.
That they're all kind of this is the type of plays you want to make at the end of your drafts. You want your bench to be last spot to be filled by these types of players because you're going to be cutting these spots anyway for waiver spots, most likely.
Yep.
All right. So let's take a look at Dan's retweet here.
Oh God, what did I do now? What did I do now?
What did Dan do? So I saw a tweet show up in my timeline.
Oh God.
And it was from FF Shepard, and it says, "My CBS fantasy football podcast dynasty ranking."
Did I retweet this?
1 FF today.
I did not. I did not read.
Hold on. This guy's ranking his favorite FFT shows. 1 is FFT Dynasty. Insights on my
Dynasty rankings. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, but say insights on my favorite format hosted by the GOAT, Heath Cummings. That's number 1. Number 2 is Beyond the Box Score. Stats bring ships. And he tagged Jacob and Dan in there. Number 3 is FFT, and he just writes whatever.
Wow.
Eisenberg at Dave Richards. So I wanted to bring it up. Beyond the Box Score.
Let me just say I regret this retweet.
No, let you just say nothing. Hold on. So I want to just bring up Beyond the Box Score is not a new show, but it's new that it has basically its own feed now. It's in the FFT Express feed, and it's great. I was on the show with Jacob and Dan, and they really opened my eyes to a lot of things, including Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt as a really exciting handcuff. Even
Jacob
though he
loves him.
Yeah, and he's got reason to. And he was the last running back selected in the draft. But anyway, listen to the episodes. They do such a great job. And I love the fact that we have me, Jamie, Dave, Heath, Dan, Jacob, who all approach fantasy football with a lot of similarities, but also with a lot of differences. And I think we give you so many different ways to look at players and evaluate players. And hopefully my goal is always the most information for you to make the most informed decision. It's not, let's tell you who to draft and who to start. It's let's give you as much information as possible. So I did want to plug Beyond the Box Score, but I noticed with this tweet ranking FFT last, there was one retweet. I just thought, who was it that retweeted it? And it was Dan Schneier. So
let me defend myself real quick. Have you ever been on Twitter before? It's a hellscape on there these days. And you're on there, you're just sifting through stuff. And the first thing I thought I saw was one of our listeners giving us a shout out here. And I didn't really read through to the end where the FFT whatever. If I ever got to that FFT whatever, sometimes you just don't read through fully.
Yeah, it's Twitter's fault.
It's Twitter's fault. Yeah, it's
I gotta tell you. I read something yesterday. It took me about 20 minutes to get through this headline of Dan's column.
Oh, come on. Oh, God forbid one of us on the staff writes about our Scott Fishbowl.
No. I appreciate you writing about your stuff, but I just love the fact that you are representing all of us.
I didn't say I was representing all of us.
I drafted a team that I was proud to represent FFT.
Right. Because that's in the Scott Fishbowl. When you go onto your team page and your draft page, it says like Dan Schneier or Jamie Eisner, whatever, FFT, Fantasy Football Today, CBS Sports. So that name is out there. People who are drafting with me in my league, I'm in the Florida Panthers League because I'm the only true fan that apparently out of us three that joined the Florida Panthers League.
I like the California Golden Bears. Leave me alone.
Okay, randomly pick the California Golden Bears. Don't know why, but
weird.
My name's out there. Our name's out there. Again, I don't want FFT to be FFT whatever. I want it to be FFT. I want it to be FFT. Look at this team. Look at the Scott Fishbowl team that's going to win it all. So I was proud of the team.
All right. Here we go. Listen, vote for us on podcastawards.com, please. We want to win this back-to-back years. Podcastawards.com. Then I think it's /app/sign up. And then you can just find Fantasy Football Today in the sports category. Here we go. Our draftathon questions. A special thank you to all 10 of you who purchased a spot. We'll have another listing next week for next Friday's mailbag. $500 that we can easily. You can donate more than that, by the way, if you want, but at least $50 all goes to St. Jude. And we're over $3,000 so far. And nice. Monday, the FFT open spots are open, so we're going to start raising a lot more money. By the way, Magic Giants still have not heard back from you. If you want to get your question read, because you donated last week. Please reach out. Okay. This one is from Maggie. She wants to know how we feel about median scoring, where managers get a point for winning their weekly head-to-head matchup, but also get a point if they score in the top half of the league for the week. That will help soften the blow for those who score high enough to beat several others in the league, but not high enough to win their head-to-head matchup. Dan, how do you feel about median scoring?
Well, I've spoken about this before on this podcast. I'll speak about it again. I have a very, very strong opinion on this. I think every league.
Kidding.
No, some things I'm not strongly opinionated on, but most things I am.
I love the reason you're on this show is because you're strongly opinionated.
That's good. Well, that's good. I like that. But this is one that I am. This is one that I am because I don't understand why and I've had this debate with one league of mine that won't switch. I don't know what's wrong with them. Why wouldn't every league do this? What do we want to just put everything up to luck? Like, if I score the second most points in my week and I'm facing off against the team that scores the first most points in my league, instead of going 0-1, I should go 1-1 versus the team that scores the 10th most but gets the 11th most guy that he faces off in this luck-based matchup that just picked randomly by the computer. He shouldn't go 1-0. It doesn't make any sense. So, of course, this is a great idea. You even out the playing field. You make it so it's not just about the luck of the scheduling, and you reward the teams that are actually playing the best. So you go 1-1, 0-2, or 2-0, and it just ends up at the end of the year when you look at the standings, it's a much better representation of which teams were not just the best by points, but the best by consistency week to week.
It's hard to argue that. The only thing that I would say against it is I feel like it could make teams give up quicker.
People say that because they fall further behind, but then you can catch up quicker too. If you go on the normal run of like a 4 week in a row, blowout, you go 8-0 over those 4 weeks. You catch back up.
All right. Look, it's a pretty good case.
You could also go on a win streak and go 1-1 every week though too.
But then you're not dominating that much.
Yeah, then you're not really
right. You're not really dominating.
True, but there's also when you get to the season plays out, teams are struggling, and you're taking advantage of the soft part of your schedule.
All right, this is fantastic, Mr. Fox.
I don't disagree with you, by the way, Dan. I'm just saying,
He says, with all the hype, dynasty question, with all the hype of Emeka, Egbuka, and the offense he's in, if you don't need wide receiver help this year, could you justify drafting Egbuka over Tetairoa McMillan?
If you believe in his talent and situation, absolutely. So I wouldn't do it, but if you have that strong a belief that Egbuka is going to be maybe the best receiver in this class, because a lot of people think McMillan's the best receiver in this class. If you really feel that way, then and you don't need him. That being said, I don't know why you wouldn't need him. If you think McMillan is close enough or has the ability to be that guy, I'm still taking McMillan over Egbuka. But if you really, really, really have that strong of an opinion, like the Tampa Bay offense, Baker Mayfield, no Mike Evans, maybe no Chris Godwin next year, all the upside that Egbuka could bring, then sure. But I don't know. If I'm going to do that, I'm probably going to trade down and try and get Egbuka a little bit later in the first round.
Okay, this is from Andy G. Dear Walter, Jesse, Tuco, and Gus.
Oh, these are Breaking Bad characters.
Correct. FFT is great. Right blend of humor and content. One of my favorite pods. Great work. And that was it. Andy did not leave a question.
Thank you. And thank you for donating to St. Jude.
Hell yeah. All right, this is from Pete.
So who sent that?
Andy G.
Andy G. Oh. You're in the leftover league.
Hey, Jamie's just handing him out willy-nilly today. Does he even have this authority? I feel like
what are you talking about?
The 3 16-team leagues that I did last year.
Okay, yeah. He can do whatever he wants with those leagues.
Oh, yep, they're all mine.
Gotcha.
All right. From Pete Levin. Okay, 2 questions. If possible, direct to Dan when he's on.
Oh, nice.
Have any of you guys incorporated AI into your draft strategies? I myself have been using AI for a highly competitive auction league I'm in to create a database that tracks managers' spending habits from previous seasons. Wow. Have you...
I have not done that. And please do me a favor, if you're listening in on this episode, which I assume you will be, find my email or my Twitter. Reach out to me on Twitter and message and let me know what about this, because I'm very intrigued about how I can track my future. I have all the past drafts of my auction, my home league auction. I'd love to figure out how I can track their spending habits. Reach out to me. I'm very intrigued by this. As far as using AI, I have not yet used it. I was thinking, though, when I stopped in today, everyone had a good laugh at my expense. Thomas, Jamie, and Adam with the thumbnail today of me as the mailman. I was thinking, you know what? I might go to AI after this and get a little Thomas the Tank Engine AI going for Thomas Schaefer, our producer, and find a way to put that into one of our things. So you know what? I may start to use AI.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, we haven't used it. We did just record an FFT Express episode called Man versus Machine, where we looked at some AI fantasy football, some Chat GPT fantasy football predictions and talked about it. That was fun. All right. So second, look at that. Look at that thumbnail. Look at that.
I got to say, I look best as the mailman of us three. I'm not going to lie.
You look like I think you look like Frank Stanfield.
I look what?
You look like Frank Stanfield.
I do kind of look like Frank here.
Right?
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why I look so much like Frank in that.
All right.
That's a compliment, by the way. Frank's a good-looking guy.
He is. Handsome dude. Superflex auction, $200 budget. How much of your budget percentage-wise would you like to spend on quarterbacks? Quarterbacks go in the tier 1 quarterbacks go in the high 40s or low 50s. So 2 of them would be about half your budget. So Jamie, what percentage of your budget would you allocate to quarterbacks in a Superflex league?
And obviously me, not much, especially I try to go very cheap in salary cap drafts at this position. So I'm going to generally miss out on the top tier guys. But for me, it would probably be 20% at most.
So for me, for years, I have been buy one of those top tier elite quarterbacks for a Superflex league. I've been doing it. I think there's been a nice drop off. And honestly, I saw some data from Ryan Heath of Fantasy Points showing that, for a while it was a bad investment. But since 2022, there have been 7 league winners from the top tier of the quarterbacks. But last year, Jamie, I did try in my most biggest buy-in league, 2 quarterback Superflex, 14 team, to go as cheap as possible at quarterback. And it worked, and it was my best team by far. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things. My quarterbacks were Russell Wilson and Derek Carr, Russell Wilson / Fields and Derek Carr. And it was I bought both Fields and Russ, and it was really great. What I was able to do at wide receiver and running back was revolutionary. So I think I've made the move to where Jamie's at. And I would say try it. Try to go as cheap as possible at quarterback and see what you can spend. But just make sure if you do that strategy, at least in my mind, you are buying at least 2 of the top players, 2 of the top 10 most expensive players. I think that strategy is completely lost if you're not going to spend at quarterback, and then you're just going to get a bunch of value plays at running back and receiver and tight end.
All right, we're going to take one more break here and finish up with your Draftathon questions, followed by your emails, Apple Podcast questions, and tweets. And we'll see if Dan is able to push off his 11 o'clock meeting, because that is in 10 minutes.
Oh, God.
We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Next question is from Surin. Who is the one player you will never draft again, and why? And who is the one player, even if you don't draft, you want them to do well? Maybe someone you drafted in the past and helped you win a championship.
I personally do not have anyone on that list. I don't believe that's a good strategy in fantasy to have someone you won't draft no matter what.
Yeah, I think we all have to say that. None of us have that player, because I'll tell you.
I do.
Oh, who?
Oh,
I don't have to draft him ever again. Deshaun Watson. See ya.
Oh, okay.
I guess you're right. You could just do that because he's not good enough to ever be drafted.
Yeah, done. Bye.
Yeah.
Fair.
I would say that I've been a little stubborn about Derrick Henry in the past in full PPR leagues. I've always looked at the fact that he hardly ever catches the ball. And it
just doesn't matter.
Not done well with that. And Terry McLaurin was another guy that I was like, I'm just not drafting him anymore. He always finishes as number 3 receiver. And obviously I missed out on that last year. So don't be stubborn. I will always root for anyone on the Giants, even if they're not on my team.
I like that.
All right. This is from Jared. I had Nico last year and watched as penalties pried points away from my team. I think he's talking about holding penalties. How do you view Jaden Daniels and his weapons with the Laramie Tunsil trade? This wasn't Tunsil a big...
Tunsil had dozen holds or something.
Yeah.
Crazy. Not that much, but...
I mean, look, if you're talking about a crappy offensive lineman, then I would probably be a little bit more concerned, because that's how he has to get by. I think, Tunsil may have started out in a bad spot, and then the refs are looking for it a little bit more. The defensive coordinator, defensive coaches are pointing it out, pre-game meetings, like, hey, keep an eye on 78 and see what he does. Daniels, I think, there's so much to love about his upside and the guys around him. It is interesting, though, because if McLaurin holds in, whatever, has a contract situation that keeps him from doing everything he needs to do in camp, and Debo is still potentially out of shape, and you have Ertz at 58 years old, are they going to, in the case of McLaurin and Ertz, replicate what they did a year ago? And is Debo going to have sort of a bounce back season? that being said, like, he's one of these fantasy assets that doesn't need his weapons to support him. He's going to make those guys productive enough and use his legs, where I think his sort of floor is safe and his ceiling is huge.
I'm seeing now. So Tunsil only had 2 holding penalties last year, but he did have 19 total penalties. 12 false starts, 3 illegal formations, 2 holding calls, an ineligible man downfield, unnecessary roughness, and a partridge in a pear tree. And I'm also seeing that Quinshon Judkins is not reporting to camp today.
Oh,
He will deal with his rookie.
Yeah, they told him, I think you said this yesterday or the day before, they told him to get the legal situation settled first before reporting. Plus, he also doesn't sign his contract yet.
Yeah. All right. This is from Van Man. I have the 16th pick in a 16-team PPR league. I figure I'm looking at guys like Henry, Taylor, Brian Thomas Jr., A.J. Brown, and Drake London. Which 2 do you like best? I will go first and say Brian Thomas Jr. and Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I'll go Brian Thomas Jr. and Drake London. I've really warmed up to London a lot over the last few weeks, just doing a lot more research on it. Saw a great stat from, I'll shout him out again, Ryan Heath from Fantasy Points Data. London was among the top in the NFL, especially during the Penix games, in first downs per target, which is a really good sticky stat year over year. And it's just that red zone usage that he's had has just really stood out to me. I think there's an upside, like what we expect. And you made this point, Jamie, a podcast or 2 ago that were on that really stood out to me as well about Harrison, where it's like he still had 8 touchdowns last year. There's really, if he just gets that into the double digits, he just easily returns value on his ADP. I almost feel like London's in a similar camp. It's like, well, you just get him to double-digit touchdowns, and he's easily returning value on his ADP.
Yeah, just get it. That's tough, though. That's a tough ask.
With his red zone usage, I don't know, though.
He had the highest percentage of team targets in the red zone or green zone, I think, or maybe it was end zone, whatever it was. So that could easily go down because there's really kind of nowhere to go but down for that. But I just can't take him over A.J. Brown because A.J. Brown is such a superior football player to Drake London. That's kind of like, I spent about an hour comparing the 2, and because I think they're really interesting. You figure more targets for London, but we've also seen A.J. Brown be on like 145 target pace before with the Eagles when they're just 22nd or 23rd in pass attempts instead of 32nd.
All before Barkley.
Yes, it was before Barkley, but it was with Jalen Hurts. So
different offense.
Yeah, I'm like, it's easily Brown for me, but I'll go. All right. So Jamie and I are going Henry and Thomas, and you're going Thomas and London, you said?
Yeah. Okay.
Alex says, what is your methodology when it comes to building projections? Which variables do you focus on? Which stat databases are best? And how do you project risk? Well, we don't do the projections. So Sports does projections, and Heath does projections. I think
we used to.
Okay, so what did you do?
Guessed. No. I mean, that's honestly what it is, though. It's a big guessing game of, you look at what happened year before, you look at the changes in offenses and coordinators and personnel, and then you sort of you start to attach, what you expect. He talks about this all the time. He's going to write a story coming up about vacated targets or vacated opportunities. And so you start to say, okay, if the coaching staff is the same and the personnel for the most part is the same, but there's one player that's changed or one thing that's, different, do you just sort of plug and play the rookie that's been drafted into that spot or the free agent who's been assigned, or maybe 2 players going into that? So in looking at the Chiefs, for example, you hear us say a lot, we're expecting more, right? We're expecting a better passing game because of the additions to the receiving core with guys coming back healthy, maybe a change with the backfield because of Pacheco not being as healthy and some of the guys there. So it's a lot of moving parts. You take the history of Andy Reid, you take the history of Patrick Mahomes, you mentioned Adam getting to 8 yards per attempt. And you sort of say, okay, can you get back to that level? And then how does that sort of play itself out across the board with the receiving core and all those things? So it's a puzzle you try to put together. But honestly, it's a lot of, guessing of, can CeeDee Lamb get back to 2023 because Dak Prescott's healthy, as opposed to what he did in 2024 when Prescott missed 9 games? Can Jake Ferguson find more touchdowns? Just looking at a team in particular. So it's a lot of historical data and taking things that you've seen, and that's the nice thing about where we are in our world, that we never used to get college target numbers. Now we get those readily, so you can say, okay, this guy commanded this many targets from, Chip Kelly's offense, for example, and you start to put that into what the Raiders could look like.
the first thing I do is the Azer stats when I want to really conceptualize. No, I'm serious. When I really want to conceptualize what I think a team's going to look at, I try to take all of the healthy games for all of the relevant players. And this is why I'm so high on the Bengals, because I'm just going to give you Joe Burrow's yardage pace over the last 4 years when he, Higgins, and Chase are all healthy. 4,956, 4,968, 4,060. That was just a horrible 2023 year, and 5,076. So I do not think it is a stretch to think that Joe Burrow is going to throw for 5,000 yards this year, and you want pieces of that passing game.
What if the defense gets better? I mean, like, there's other factors.
The defense hasn't been horrible the entire time.
What? The defense was terrible last year.
4 years. I'm giving you 4 years.
Okay. Let me just say something.
No, we got
the history. Quick thing. Throughout the history of FFT, why have we never gotten a data scientist on at some point to just explain how many intricate flaws are involved in Azer statting things? And just because I feel like no one's ever really called out like the dangers of Azer statting your way through stats.
It's just rose-colored glasses. That's what he does.
No, this is how you project. You don't project, he's going to miss 3 games. He's going to miss 4 games. You project 17 games for everyone.
No, you can't do that, though.
You can't just Azer stat your way through life.
Ask Heath. He projects 17 games for everyone. That's what he does. He does not project players to miss time with injury. So you have to look at guys' stats when everybody's on the field. All right. Here is a question from Darren. And he says, 10-team PPR, auction draft, $200 budget, 6 point per passing touchdown, 2 flexes. I'm keeping Lamb at $48 and Irving at $7. Who should be my third keeper? Nico at $38, Higgins at $20, Jaden Daniels at $3. Ding, ding, ding. Jaden Daniels for me.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels at $3.
Yeah, it's too good.
All right. What are your kicker strategies from Andy G?
Look, my only kicker strategy, and I'll just be quick on this week to week, is take the kicker on your waiver wire who is at home and has the highest point spread. It's the biggest favorite that week.
Say it one more time.
You take the kicker off the waiver wire, or maybe hopefully you have somebody good, I guess. But if you hopefully you're just playing the waiver wire like me, he's at home and his team is favored by the most points.
Okay. All right. We got about 15 minutes left for the rest of the questions. So light speed was too slow. Jamie, prepare the ship for... No?
Ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed. There we go. All right. This is from Mark. It says, I love... Oh, you don't know that movie, do you, Dan?
No, what movie is that?
The Spaceballs.
I haven't seen Spaceballs. It was a while ago. Comb the Desert. Yeah, I like that one.
What are you talking about? He told us to comb the desert. That's what we're doing. Love the Mahomes discussion that Adam and Jamie had. One thing that wasn't mentioned is the Chiefs' defense is way better now, and there is a correlation between defensive points per game and Mahomes' fantasy points per game.
Right. That is a great point.
True. However, it is a good point. I don't think it's necessarily, I think it's correlation and not causation, because the pass attempts have not been any lower.
But so the last short pass attempts is the point.
That's what it is. It's the short pass attempts. That's my big thing, is they have to throw the ball downfield more. But over the last 2 years, they've had an elite defense. They've always had a good defense, basically, with Spags, but elite last 2 years. And they've still been 2nd and 6th in pass attempts. So the difference is they're not throwing the ball downfield as much. Right. Are they being more conservative offensively, Dan? I think that's the case you're going to make.
That's the case I'm going to make. And I think you guys probably could corroborate that just from watching the Chiefs. There's so many spots where I think Andy Reid is just taking the field goal because he knows he can rely on his defense.
But I think that's where the difference could come in this year, is like they've been so frustrated with this, and so yes, they're not going to change the way defenses play them. But that's why I think you've seen what they've tried to do from a personnel standpoint, is like bringing in guys that they can hopefully open things up. That's the drafting of Worthy, the signing of Marquise Brown, the keeping of Marquise Brown, bringing in some, speed at the backfield, pass catchers in the backfield that they think that they can use, so I'm very curious. Look, it's hard to argue against what's happened the past 2 seasons, because that's kind of what they've become. But you just see the way that they've had to win games. Clearly it's been successful for them, but it's been a lot of, ugly ways to get it done. And do they want to change that if they can?
Right.
Dan, the Chiefs were 7th in plays last year. They were 26th in 4th down plays.
Yeah, they don't go for it anymore.
And they had the one of the best conversion rates too. But
They have Mahomes. It's crazy. I watch his games and he just doesn't care.
The fact that they had a horrible season last year, for them, losing in the Super Bowl is awful. They're going to come back and change things up.
Yeah, everyone says that. I feel like that was the same narrative for last year. It's why I bought into Mahomes, and I was way wrong on Mahomes last year.
All right, here's a question from Charles. Question about your views on Aaron Jones.
Ooh.
By the way, I skipped a question. I'm going to have to go back to it.
Okay.
But your views on Aaron Jones. In your consensus rankings, Jones is 63rd and Mixon is 38th. Last year, they were tied in fantasy points in PPR at 240. Okay, that's definitely not points per game. That's got to be overall points. Remember, Jones didn't miss a game, and he left one early. Mixon missed several.
Right.
Jones is 30. Mixon is 29. Jones has an elite offensive line. Mixon has a terrible one. Jones' team added a running back last year in Mason. And you've got Nick Chubb and the rookie there.
Yeah.
Woods. What was his name? The total wild card that they
Woody Marks.
Woody Marks. Yeah, not Woods. Aaron Jones just got a contract extension. So anyway, he wants to know why there's such a gap between Jones and Mason. Jamie?
I'm just concerned that what Kevin O'Connell has said this offseason is going to play itself out, because he seems to be an upfront and honest coach, that he did not like the fact that they gave Jones so much work. He said that before they even re-signed him. I'm sure they had the plan in place to re-sign him. And then they go and they trade for a guy that I don't know if you want to say is, the most proven commodity out there, but, showed some flashes, for the 49ers when he got a chance to play for them as the starter when Christian McCaffrey was hurt. So looking at Jones the last couple of years versus Mixon the last couple of years, I think Mixon has proven himself to be a little bit better of a fantasy asset and a little bit more consistent of a fantasy asset. Jones the last couple of seasons in Green Bay, certainly last year in Green Bay, banged up, missed a lot of time, not as productive, resurrected himself in Minnesota. And it's a great offense to be a part of. And listen, you get Aaron Jones at the right price, I think you're doing yourself a service. But to reach for him and to say that those guys should be drafted in a similar range, I don't think that's the case.
It's this simple. You got to use the per game stats here, because Mixon averaged about 2.5 points more per game in PPR than Jones. It's a huge difference. All right, here's a question from Michael. Dear 333, 1, 456, and 27. Every year, we randomly determine our draft order selection using an event like March Madness, the Olympics, and even a Roomba vacuum with a knife attached and balloons scattered around the room. Last balloon standing wins. I'm not quite sure what these numbers are.
Yeah, that seems safe.
Yeah, right. This year, I landed the 4th pick. I'm assuming that the first 3 people will take the first 3 draft spots. It is a half PPR league where we start only 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, 1 quarterback. If you were in my position, which draft spot would you choose, assuming the first 3 were gone?
4.
I wrote about this in yesterday's article. I like drafting 6. I like drafting in the middle because you can avoid runs on players and you can avoid having to reach on players. This year is not as great to draft in the middle. It's very rarely that it is. I think just looking at the board, though, I actually kind of like the 12-11 range more than I ever have this year. Like, I like getting the Neighbors and Brian Thomas, or a combo like that, like especially in PPR. This one less so, though, with only starting 2. So I think Jamie's right. If it's a shallower league like this, take the top pick.
So you know what I'm going to say. Shallow league like this, it's going to bump up tight end for me.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't want to draft too early and eliminate my chance to get Bowers or McBride in the second round. If you believe that McBride or Bowers could be there late in the second round, then it doesn't really matter where you pick. Or you could say your strategy is Kittle in the 4th round. And if that's the case, I'd probably want to pick in the back half of the first round. I don't think Kittle's going to make it past like 42nd overall. So I would think about the tight ends. I also don't really think it matters that much at the end of the day. Don't stress too much.
The only thing with picking at the back end, because I was very excited, more excited about those spots in the beginning part of the offseason, more so than the last couple of drafts we've done where I picked there, is if you're in a league, which I think most people listening will be, where quarterbacks are going to come off the board in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, it's going to make the back end of round 3, beginning of round 4, your second turn through, a lot better.
Right.
If you're not, and you don't want to take quarterback there, it's not as enticing.
It dries up, but I just feel like, weirdly enough, at the top of the draft, the back end around 2 and 3 is kind of dry. That's why I like going a little bit more toward the end of the
Yeah. Well, if you think the back end of rounds 2 and 3 is
back ends around 2, early 3 is what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, I don't feel that way. I think it's after like 30 picks.
Like, to me, there's such a big drop off from getting like a Brian Thomas as my second round pick versus like a McConkey or Higgins or something like that.
Well, you're also getting Jamar Chase or Bijan.
I know. I get
No,
that.
I agree with you. I would agree with you on that. But to me, there's a bigger drop off between McConkey, Higgins, Chase Brown, and then a guy like Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson,
which I guess is the back end of 3. Yeah.
The 3.
So I will say this in regards to our pick by pick, and you could have done this, Adam, if you really wanted to, because I picked 1 and you picked 2. So I took Chase, and you know the way I like to draft. I'm probably going to go 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, or 1 pass catcher in that regard. If you took Higgins, you probably had a good chance of getting Higgins on.
James not gonna take
because
it.
Starting to bang. I don't know if a lot of people want to do that. I wrote about that. I was like, first time it stood out to me.
True.
I didn't think about that. And the funny thing is, I took Chase Brown in round 3.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier to get away with the receiver running back, but like, do you really want to tie yourself into? And you made a case, Joe Burrow, 5,000 yards. Those two guys are going to benefit in a major way, but I don't think a lot of people want to do that. Like, starting your team with your first 2 picks of Chase and Higgins, of Jamar Chase and Higgins.
Yeah, I don't think people are doing that.
No, I don't. I mean, again, could be amazing, right?
Bro, listen to this. Joe Burrow's ADP right now on Fantasy Pros is 47th. Now, this is 4-point per passing touchdown league. So even there, I think it's decent value. What you could, in theory, if you had the number 1 pick, you could draft Joe Burrow. You could draft Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, and Joe Burrow. And I would do it just to have fun. Like, if it were my only league, I would not do it. But if I had that opportunity, I would do it just for fun and see what happens. I think it would be fascinating.
That's perfect for people who are doing these best ball tournaments during the season. Now, I'm sure people won't. In those leagues, people like see what people are building, and they don't want to let them get those stacks. But that's perfect for like large scale tournament leagues.
All right, I got a few more questions here. This is from Brandon. Bijan Robinson is the consensus RB1 on your show, but I'm curious if you have any concerns about his lack of explosiveness over his first 2 years. Currently, the longest run of his career is 38 yards, with only 5 rushes of more than 20 yards last year. It's a great question, honestly, and it's a weird thing about Bijan. Are you guys worried about his lack of explosiveness?
I'm not. I think that's going to come around this year. He was an explosive runner at Texas, so I don't see any reason he has had no major injuries.
I know. I think it's a total fluke.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Not concerned, but
he's not my RB1 though.
If he's going to be RB1, he's averaged 4.6 and 4.8 yards per carry. Probably should be over 5, have that kind of special year.
Yeah.
Because like last year, Gibbs, Barkley, and Henry, I think they were all over 5.7, which was insane. All right. Anyway, moving on. From Justin, Jamie. This question was specifically for Jamie. So Dan, you and I will just shut up and go play tennis. You talked about locking up Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet in round 9 or 10, something similar for CMC and Garendo. What are your thoughts about reaching a round earlier for those guys? And would you do that with any other combos? Connor and Benson, Gibbs, Montgomery won't be there, but Jones, Mason, thoughts?
I mean, look, if you want to guarantee yourself that you have those handcuffs, then don't look at what ADP says, and certainly start to look at what the draft board is and where those guys are coming up, depending on what list you look at, projections list, rank list. Our draft room, you could sort by the 3 rankings, myself, Dave, and Heath. You could look at projections, you could have draft positions. So whatever list you're looking at, and they're starting to get there, please make sure if that's the route you want to go, you do it. Yes. The Cardinal situation, the Viking situation, those guys are easier to do because you're talking about like a 4th or 5th round pick for Connor and a double-digit round pick for Benson, and Jones is going to go like round 6, round 7, and you get Mason easily. So the Titans backfield easy to handcuff. If you buy into those, I mean, they're almost all easy to handcuff. There's really no way to get around it. I mean, the one I don't think we talk enough about, maybe 2, is the Falcons and the Eagles. Now, the Falcons is pretty clear cut. Like Tyler Algier would be a league winner if Bijan Robinson were to miss time.
Yeah.
And the Eagles one, like all we're saying, except Dan, because I know he still buys into Barkley being, fine. But like, if you're concerned about the workload for Barkley, and that's the reason you're shying away from, it's going to be because of an injury. And if that's the way you're approaching it, that he's going to miss time at some point due to an injury, you should be drafting Will Shipley everywhere.
All right.
I think those guys are worth drafting no matter what because
Agreed.
of that.
Agreed. Yeah. But like if you're like, I'm not necessarily saying that Barkley is going to get hurt. I'm not approaching it that way. I'm just saying he's going to have a little bit of a decline in production, which is why I'm not taking him out of the first round, which is why I'm not taking him out of the top 6.
Right.
I'm just concerned based on like my biggest fear, again, small sample size. Every 2,000-yard rusher has declined by 500 yards or more. Everyone.
Yeah.
Every single one.
And I think Barkley is going to have certainly fewer rushing yards. I do think he's going to have more catches this year because I just think they're going to throw the ball. Because they're going to throw the ball more.
Are they?
Yes. I think they will. Based on everything they're saying.
I think they're saying?
Yeah, they're saying it. I mean,
what does it matter what they're saying? If they're still as dominant as they are in the run game and their defense is better, which it very well should be.
Because you can't give Barkley that many carries again. It's criminal.
They can give him to Shipley, though. I mean, they can give him to anybody else on that team.
The thing I have with Shipley is like, we have seen absolutely nothing from Will Shipley. I don't know that
they're the Eagles. They'll probably sign some good veteran before camp. Like they'll be fine.
They have AJ Dillon.
They have Dillon too, right? They'll just give Dillon. Like if you're the Eagles, there's just no reason to throw the ball.
All right, we gotta get moving here. Apple Podcast question. Pete from Seattle. I'm very sorry that I did not have time for your email. My apologies. This is a question from Sibatura. Oh no, we owe him an apology. We said there's no point for first down in the Scott Fishbowl League, but there is.
There is, yeah.
So if you're drafting there, so
I don't think there is on Sleeper.
I think there is, but
there is.
We should know that because we're 17 rounds into a
Sleeper. There is on Sleeper, but there's like a tight end difference on Sleeper, Jamie. That I know what you're talking about. Go on.
All right, Jake from Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Why are we not higher on Michael Pittman if we think Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback?
Because Daniel Jones is not a good thing for Michael Pittman.
But he was for Malik Neighbors. That's the point that Jake is saying.
What do you mean he was for Malik Neighbors?
He gave Neighbors, according to Jake, 11.7 targets, 7.6 catches, no. 75 yards per game.
No. Malik Neighbors, when Daniel Jones was in the lineup with Drew Lock, had his best fantasy scoring game. So, I mean, Brian Dable gave Malik Neighbors those 11.7 targets per game. Brian Dable designed the entire offense around Malik Neighbors. Daniel Jones did none of that. He just designed it. Daniel's the highest first read throw percentage. That's a Dable stat, not a Jones stat. And so if you look at Jones, he was 4th worst accuracy, 20 plus yards. So Pittman is not going to be doing things down the field in breaking routes. That's not something really Jones does, the intermediate level. The only thing that Jones would be good for would be Josh Downs in a PPR league. Jones will be bad for the entire offense, including the deep passing game and Michael Pittman. So people aren't high on Pittman because they don't want to be high on the Colts passing game because they don't believe in it.
Can we do a show at some point of talent versus situation?
Oh, yeah. No, Josh. Yeah. So the all-talent team would be, for me, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith.
No, don't do it right now. Let's think about it.
Unrealized talent. With those 3 receivers would be up there. Flowers, Devontae Smith, and Josh Downs.
It just feels like I see this so many times in drafts, especially with a lot of our drafts, because I know the way some of the people on our staff think, which is not the wrong way to approach it at all. But it's like you're drafting some of these guys like, oh, why? I don't understand why this guy goes there. And then it's like, it's the talent. You're drafting the talent.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I've been blown away by what I saw from Josh Downs. I think I was just wrong.
He's
about
awesome.
him last times we talked about him. Good. And Matt Harmon just came out with his top 15 wide receivers under 25. And I think he was like 10th. He was ahead of some guys. He would have been a little surprised, Josh Downs. Yep. Okay. Apple Podcast, that was the only 2 that we got. So let's go to the YouTubers. What do you have for us, YouTubers? I'll give them a little bit of time to get some questions in. So what's up, guys? How we feeling over there?
I mean, Dan's about to get fired. He's 15 minutes late.
I've already pushed this meeting back to 1 hour. Now it's 15 minutes late. The last message I sent to RJ, who's our boss, it was not responded to, so I hope he's not mad at me. I said this show is running a little bit late today.
All right, we got a Fantasy Cops.
It's always Adam's fault.
I didn't have my mixer ready. Hold on 1 second, please.
Oh, now his mixer's not ready. Come on. Oh,
Is this
there
the
we go.
Fantasy Cops music? It's been so long. All right, here we
I
go.
need that music in my life.
A league member has not paid his dynasty dues of last season. I covered his entry fee. It's July. He's been a fantasy player with me for 10 years, but always a headache to collect. Punishment or wait?
I feel like if he's paid it off all these 10 years, despite being a headache, you just wait because you know the money's coming, right?
It's a year now, though.
I mean, it's too late to get rid of him.
I would say this is your last time, and you owe me lunch.
Yeah, let's go, man. Let's go. The Fantasy Cops have Luis's back here. League member, pay your stinking dues. All right, what do we got here? Anything coming in? What are your thoughts on 0.2 points per carry in PPR leagues, and how does it change ADP for you?
So this is where people obviously get frustrated with, PPR and the 6 catch for the Wandale Robinson of the world who benefit because they don't do a lot post catch, but they get a lot of receptions. You can certainly bump up running backs. It'll probably change the ADP for like how Adam says he's nervous about Derrick Henry, for example. So maybe that makes him a surefire first round pick in.
Yeah, that probably makes him a top 5 pick.
Right. So guys like that, Jonathan Taylor benefits.
A lot of
Kyron Williams benefits. All these guys are going to get a lot of work that the passing game number is not going to be there.
So just did the math. 300 carries in a 0.2 point per carry league would be 3.4 fantasy points per game. So that is enormous. Wow. You shouldn't bump up all running backs. It's the ones that really stand out in carries that should get bumped up. Right. And the rushing quarterbacks are also huge here. Like Kyler Murray's going to probably, actually he hasn't been running.
He doesn't run that much anymore.
100. So that's 20 points for the year.
Drake May will be a nice one with McDaniels, especially.
Yeah, so that's not enormous for him, but it's a point per game at least.
Right.
For getting 80 to 100 carries. So anyway, all right, let's move on. Good question. Dynasty Superflex. It's 12-team league PPR. Burrow or Brock Purdy and Henderson. Superflex. Wow.
Travion,
I assume.
I think it's got to be right.
I know the answer.
I don't think Darrell Henderson's in the league anymore.
Yeah, I know the answer for Jamie.
I would take Purdy and Henderson.
Yeah, I've read like a lot of Jamie content this offseason. And I feel like Henderson has been your most talked about player.
Look at his,
I like him a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get it.
Look at Dan crossing his arms. So blatant. Is Dan bulking up in preparation for the tennis match?
Arm cross is comfortable for a podcast. I'm not going to lie. I don't know where else to really put him. But no.
Maybe an armrest?
Kind of bulk down the armrest. I mean, it's not that comfortable right here.
You were so pissed about the armrest. So wait a minute. Hold on a second. Hold on. You just sat here for an hour like this, but you were pissed off about it.
Oh, yeah. Because look, when I'm doing it like this, it's still free. But when I'm like jammed up in a plane, I'm like, they're touching me. That's the problem. He's impinging on my area. And so now I don't want to be touching a stranger throughout the whole flight. I don't want flesh to flesh touching throughout a flight. I think people will understand it. You know what I'm talking about, Adam, right? Like everybody's in short sleeves. It's the summer and I got my arm rubbing it. Like, I don't want that.
No, it's gross.
I gotta tell you, when I was thinking about this, I was like, every flight I go on and I get off the plane and I turn to the person next to me every time. I'm like, why did you have to bother me with the armrest? Then my wife just looks at me and goes, shut up.
Oh man, is Chuba and Ingram for Kittle in full PPR dynasty a fair trade? Huh. Chuba and Ingram for Kittle in full PPR dynasty.
I like the Kittle side for sure.
I like the Kittle side also.
Yeah, I think it's a fair trade, but
yeah. It's okay if you believe in Chuba.
From the Gas Man, how do they know I got gas? Is Genty overrated? Where do you draft and redraft? It's Dumb and Dumber. You've never seen it.
Yep, sadly.
Is Genty overrated? I mean, he might be. I'm not taking him until 13th overall.
I like him a lot this year, so I wouldn't put him overrated. I think, especially Chip Kelly. The Chip Kelly factor is what really sold me on Genty for this year.
All right. Well, YouTube user wants to know Genty or Gibbs.
Well, let me tell you something, YouTube user. You got to do a better job of creating a username if you want these questions answered. This will be the last one we answer until you either donate to St. Jude or change your name. But I'm going to go with Gibbs.
I would go Gibbs also. You should change your name to YouTube user represents FFT.
Lawrence,
Listen.
Rashee Rice in the 8th or James Cook in the 4th? Keeper league. Interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
Half PPR.
Rice.
If you can keep for an additional year, I think you'd probably go Rice, right?
I go Rice either way. I mean, Cook is almost falling to the 4th round as it is.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real value there.
And we'll keep asking.
Again, wait
well,
till
we'll finish with this. Whatever happened with Jamie's baseball league?
So we lost in the state tournament. It was just not the right situation for us, unfortunately. I think we probably maxed out our potential when winning the first 2 tournaments that we won. The team that we lost to in pool play, so you had to win. Basically, you had to win the pool, then there was 2 pools. So win your side, and then have to play the other pool winner. We lost to the eventual state champion in our first game, and once we lost that game, it was basically over from that point. So competitive first game against the state champs, which was fun to see. Terrible second game. I think our kids just didn't show up, and then we won our 3rd game to leave the state tournament 1-2. But unbelievable experience. Really proud of the kids.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. All right, Matt. So Dan, you better not get this wrong. Grape jelly or strawberry jelly?
Interesting. I think it's grape
easy
for me.
Oh, show's over. Go to your stupid
I
call.
like grape jelly.
I hope you get suspended without pay.
Wow. Unreal.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging out on a very long episode of Fantasy Football today. We'll talk to you on Monday. FFT open 7 p.m. Monday. The slots go up there. tinyurl.com/2025 FFT. See you later.